So today we're going to be working on three drawings, that is three THREE drawings for architectural sculptures that integrate concepts of seashells and rocks into its form. Okay, we're doing some drawing, reviewing and refining observational drawing skills, uh, and creating a object that will eventually go into our portfolio of three-dimensional works of art. Our objective is we'll create realistic, imaginative, sculptural, architectural elements that could be incorporated into a building facade. A facade is a wall. That's the side of a building is a facade. So you got a nice vocabulary word there. We're going to create a series of three drawings for architectural sculptures that incorporate concepts of seashells and rocks into its form. Okay, so again, you will create a series of three drawings for a sculptural relief that is 8 inches by 8 inches square and has a thickness of a 1/2 inch at its base. So you're starting out with a 1/2 inch thickness, and then you're going to build upon that. The tile will have the elements of the seashells and rocks built upon it. These can project out from the surface 1.5 inches, and you'll be working with ZAM Superbody clay when you create your element. You will draw one page of sculptural elements, seashells, and rocks, which you will combine into your finished drawing of the sculpture. Right? So you start on your first one. And if we look over here, this is the first one. You do multiple drawings on one page. Okay? I don't want to see one drawing on a page. I want to see multiple drawings. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got like at least eight drawings of shells on my first page, and you have a sketchbook, so use it. 2, you're going to make 2 drawings of sculptures you can assemble from your elements. So now you're going to come up with, like, how would you put all these things together in your composition? And here we have, I created this, and you can watch the video and see how I drew this. Okay, this is an actual tile, but it doesn't matter because somebody had to make a drawing first in order to come up with their concept. So they literally made a drawing on clay, okay, when they actually created their tile eventually, okay? So these are both drawings. You could say they're both drawings, okay? And these are finished, concepts of something. You can actually see what they did. When done, create a Google slideshow and download it as a PDF file and submit it using this name. Okay, you're going to call it shell. That's the last portion of the file naming convention. You put your period number 6, your last name, your first name, shell. Okay, so we know who you are, and put a hyphen between all that. Okay, you got lots of source materials here to look at. Okay, all these shells to look at and be inspired by. They're so awesome. That's a nautilus shell and these big clam shells. And you can see the structures of the shell, very complex. There's lots of information here to look at when you're making your drawings. Here, this is the nautilus shell. Look at that. Look at that. Those surfaces. Beautiful. Okay, beautiful rocks. Lots of texture on those rocks. More shells. Shells within shells. At the end of the shell, and you'll see, and this is a coral. It's actually a coral that has not alive anymore, but that was a living thing at one time. All right, and so clams, and you name it. You got more nautilus shells. So much texture, so much beauty to work with, and lots of information. Okay, now here's an example of how I approach the assignment. Do not copy my design. Okay, do not copy this. This is an example of what you could put onto your tile eventually when you're done. This is your rubric. Okay, keep your size relationships, proper. Okay, size relationships with objects are close to perfect in relation to objects drawn from observation. Okay, the line that separates positive space from negative space is pristine and consistently established with no breaks, no additional lines are added with no evidence of erasing. You got nice tone separation, okay? And you should spend, 40 to 45 minutes on your 3 drawings, okay? And here's our examples of drawings that took at least 45 minutes to do. Okay, so you can see what that looks like. Here's some more additional abstract photographs of shell parts, which I thought were fascinating, and you can incorporate this into your drawings as well. All right, thank you. In this assignment, you are making sculptural forms for your ceramics project, right? You're using seashells. So I'm looking at my seashells, and I keep looking at them and thinking, you know, how's this all going to go together as a sculpture, right? Because you would make this into a sculpture form, right? Now, seashells are already a sculptural form, but you're going to be combining them all together. And I got these two seashells that I found. I think I found them in Costa Rica, and I brought them home with me because they're so beautiful. And they're joined together. And I got this other seashell here that I'm working with. And I've got a rock that I found. It's a volcanic rock. This also came from Costa Rica. I thought it was cool because Costa Rica is very volcanic. There's lots of volcanic rock everywhere. There's little holes in it. That's where the gases were escaping when it was formed, because there's always these other gases in there. Dioxide or water vapor or whatever cools, right? And then there's a shadow, right? And with your computer screen, you can really expand. There's another rock. Expand the size, and you really look at the form and see a lot of detail in here. This thing has got all these little things going through it that I found quite fascinating. And I took these photographs with my macro lens on my 35 millimeter DSLR. And you can use the side of your pencil to kind of put in the value. And I'm looking at another aspect of the big seashell. And it's got this little thing that comes up here. It's like part of the hinge of the seashell here. And that comes around. This is the lip, right? And this comes around like that. And you're just drawing into everything. And there's all these stuff is happening with this shell, striations. This is how the shell grows outward. It's almost like a bird. Looks like a bird now. How about that? You start seeing all these interesting forms and keep discovering new things. I'm flipping my paper around because I'm going to do this coral thing. This piece of coral is just, you know, of course, coral is essentially a sea creature. It keeps accreting calcium carbonate, which is limestone, and then it keeps growing outward, and that's how you get a coral reef. It's an actual organism that does this, and this is coming out. It's almost like a volcano. Right? So this is an amazing shelled creature. It's called a nautilus, and it dates from like 450 million years ago when it evolved, and it's still around in the ocean. These things still are living. They actually have
little squid tentacles that come out here. These are like, before there were octopus, there were these guys. Octopus used to live in shells, believe it or not. All right, this thing's coming up in these interesting forms. And so I'm just wrapping my head around all these amazing things so I can get ideas for my final drawings. And you're going to do 2 final drawings of this. And make a sculpture using these various forms that I've come up with here, just using the source materials. Of course, there's shadow here. Shadow. Okay, there you go. There's another shadow over here. And it's dark in here. It's dark. Using the side of my pencil to get my dark lines. So here I have come up with a whole bunch of different forms and shapes that now I'm going to incorporate into my actual sculpture drawings. See, look at all that. Lots of stuff to work with. So one of the things I really liked in there was there's a kind of a seashell shape that's kind of broken up. It's broken on the inside, and there's space. You can see into it because it's broken. And I find that fast. I like the inner and the outer. And then we've got this coming in, and this is the inner, and there's a cylinder here. This inner part of the spiral. You can see a little better. And then this shell comes around, right? And then this thing's coming down here, and then this piece is broken out here as well, and this comes back up, and there's pops out like that, and then comes in like that. And it comes around, right? Now there's this space in here, and I'm filling it in because it's dark. There's shadow in here, right? The lights didn't come in here. Another shadow here. Oh, the shadow, right? As you can see, the shell is starting to take shape here, and you have to take your time. You have to really observe what you're doing, and what are you doing? What are you creating? What is your idea? Now, I was really taken with this form. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to observe my form again, and I'm going to have like this bird thing coming out here, and a part of the whole milieu. What's happening here, right? And I can let this just trail off like that, like a bird's wings, and that could be part of my sculpture. So here I'm using this similar form that I made here, and I'm looking at my source material when I do this. Now, I really like the rocks that I had earlier, I found them quite fascinating. I'm going to use elements of those rocks here and here as part of my composition, because I just find them so fascinating. So I had one interesting thing. I had this seashell, and if I think of it, this seashell is kind of like holding everything within itself, right? And it's kind of coming up around. And it's kind of coming in. And then I've got shadow in here, right? We have shadow, and there's shadow that I'm building here. Now, you've got this eraser. You take your eraser and you can erase, right? And you can play around with stuff, light and shadow here, right? And put those contour lines in there. Now, there's shadow here. There's shadow. There's this big shadow that comes around here. And that's what also gives it a sense of place and space. And you're making all kinds of marks, hash marks, whatever you want to call them, hatch marks. Right? I want this to be someplace, right? It's got to be someplace. Well, maybe it's by the seashore, right? It's the water. It's all about water, right? Go back into it with your eraser.